less demand. And for our next topic, I think this is a huge one. I saw an article earlier this morning, and it was talking about the end of Airbnbs. Like, is Airbnb investing dying? Is short-term rentals dying? Which short-term rental is like the investor term. So if you hear anybody say short-term rental, they really mean like Vrbo and Airbnb and such. This is interesting, and I think it's definitely taken a hit, and it's really not because I think it's a lot of it is due to like local legislation, and the best way to describe it is a lot of, like, if you look at it, like, this is the take from a lot of people, and you'll run into this at like local committee meetings, is that when investors invest in an area, they drive up the prices and they make it less affordable for the people who live there, and they bring tourism pros and cons, right? Some people love it, some people think it's great for the community, some people start to get tired of it after a while, and it's in moderation. And a lot of people feel like investors are stealing the housing out of neighborhoods by buying them and short-term renting them. And this is where it gets into a really controversial topic, because is it dead? No, but it's certainly less popular because a lot of investors aren't doing it anymore because you get torn up by local legislation. It's not at a federal level where you're seeing this really. It's on, like, it's cities, essentially, like the city of Charleston, the city of Mount Pleasant. You see a lot of stuff like that, or for example, like the city of Houston. It could be anywhere, and essentially, right, you get into this concept where, can the local government tell you what to do with your houses? It's a hot topic, right? I usually, when I'm talking about it, and I sit down with the table with you, I try not to dive too much in it, because I've heard a lot of conflicting. People get pretty revved up over it. It really is. It's probably, in terms of real estate, it's probably one of the things that people get revved up the most, especially if you found somebody who has an Airbnb next to them and people are partying a lot. But yeah, so can the local legislation tell you what to do with your house? It's right. It's kind of a sketchy area, right? Are they able to tell you, with the house that you bought with your money, what you can do with it? If you're zoned residential and your HOA allows it, right, it's pretty hard to argue against that without it kind of getting, into a political conversation there. And what we're happening to see is a lot of cities they think the same thing. A lot of cities aren't outright banning them. They're not. A lot of them aren't. And what they're doing is they're making it so hard to do it that it's just like discouraging people from doing it. And what I mean by that is like permits and requirements, and like limits, how many that can be in a given area, how long can you do it for, what are the permits required, what are the safety requirements for that. And I think the safety requirements, everybody understands that. It's more the extra permits, limits, and also additional taxes. So a lot of cities are taxing short-term rental income at a high rate, which, once again, right, you don't make as much money doing it. It's already a bit more expensive to get into because you have to furnish it, you have to manage it more intensely, and you're not making as much money. And that's what we're seeing a lot now, is that they're making it so hard to do it that a lot of people aren't doing it. So is it dying? No, it's definitely not dying, but people aren't really going out and buying them as much, as aggressively now as they did the past couple of years, just because local legislation is so tough on them. It makes it really hard and stressful to do. You really have to know what you're doing with it too, because if you bought a house, next thing you know, you find out, well, I can't short-term rent it. I underwrit this property and I planned to short-term rent it. Now I can't. Now I'm losing money. I don't know what to do with it. You could run into that situation. And for an example, Mount Pleasant, I'm familiar with that area. They currently allow 400 short-term rental permits in all of Mount Pleasant. So 400 people can rent short-term rent at a time. The permits, they renew automatically. So if you already have a permit, you get the first right to renew. So it's hard to kind of get back into that. And on top of that, you have to have a bunch of safety requirements set out, like such as what you'd see in a hotel. Like picture like what you'd see in a hotel, which I think that's completely, like, in terms of like exit signs and everything, I think that's really reasonable as far as safety. Of course, it's kind of a pain to put one in, but I could see the safety aspect of it. I guess that's what I mean. But there's so many different requirements regarding off-street parking, on-street parking. This is allowed, this is not allowed. What's allowed even in the property, they really dive in. There's certain requirements that you have to abide by inside the property. And it's a super long list. Honestly, it would take probably forever, like 30 minutes to go over it and talk about it. But I guess my point is Airbnb investing dying, is short-term investing dying? No, but it's way harder, and the local governments are making it extremely not as popular. It's definitely not as popular. Local governments don't like it. A lot of citizens don't like it, which drive the local government. And it's a really hot topic, right? Because is the local government able to tell you what you can do with your house? That doesn't sound too good when you say it that way. And we're seeing that, right? A lot of people are getting out of that area because local legislation is tearing into them. They're tearing into their business. They can't short-term rent a property, and it's not as profitable, or they just can't get the permit to do it at all. And a lot of times, if you don't have the permit and you do it, I think that'd be a question, right? What happens if I just do it anyway? They have fines that really range per area, but they can fine you pretty heavily as a city. So it's not ideal. It really is not. And I've heard, right, the word on the street is that I've heard that if you're posting your listing on Airbnb, the counties, I've heard the cities screen the websites for Airbnb and to find out, oh, who's this person? I don't think they have a permit. And then next thing you know, you get stuck with a fine. But that's our two topics for today. We actually went a bit longer than usual. I think we're kind of getting towards 15 minutes or so, but hopefully they'll be a bit shorter. This is our first one though too, so we're going to really get it set, figure out what works, figure out what doesn't. Of course, I appreciate any feedback as well. But hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed that snippet of our overall real estate talk over here at Housebang. And we're actually be doing these as full segments here on this channel. I think it's going to be super fun. There's more stuff happening every day now than ever in the real estate market. So it's a super fun time to have a real estate talk. So look forward to seeing you on the next one. Of course, I always appreciate your feedback. I value that more than anything else. Thank you.